Thank you very much for coming here. Welcoming you in Cannes. We have this great panel about blockchain in media and entertainment. And let me say, Manuel? Manuel will say a couple of words about what blockchain is, as I know there are many creative people who are not technical.
Bonjour, hello, good day. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Astra Group. I'm very pleased to be here to introduce this panel, which is about blockchain and in the media industry. My name is Manuel Badel. I'm based in Montreal, Canada. I'm a consultant in digital media, helping companies to finance their projects. And I've been involved in the blockchain world for the last 3 years, developing different projects. And I'm the author of the first research on blockchain in the film, TV, and gaming industry in Canada, a research that has been recently published by Telecom Canada and the Canada Media Fund, and which is available on their websites for free. You know, I read this morning a stat about blockchain. The demand for blockchain engineers has increased by 500% in the last 12 months. And another number, you know, I've read that in less than 5 years, the blockchain business value should be around $300 billion. So that's a lot of money. That's a lot of demands for blockchain engineers. And I think that if you're interested, you are in the right place. You know, 53% of managers in the media industry think that blockchain could disrupt their organizations and industry. Well, this means also that maybe 47% of these people don't believe the same idea. So it's almost like the Brexit, you know, in a way. It could be difficult maybe to apply it, to implement. So there is a lot of skepticism. There is a lot of optimism, but a lot of skeptical people when we talk about blockchain. You know, there is a lot of confusion between Bitcoins, for instance, and cryptocurrencies, and blockchain. Bitcoins are only an application, business application, the first business application of blockchain as a technology. I won't go dive into details about the technology itself, but maybe just recall that it's a database that is distributed over a network. It's a database that increases transparency, immutability of data, and when we talk about transparency, we talk about traceability. You know, in the course of the research I've conducted, well, I think that the most interesting thing in what people are interested, I mean in the film, TV, gaming industry, is about data, right management, and monetizations. You know, a very important thing because creators believe in blockchains because they think that this technology could improve the way people are retributed for their work. So to conclude, there are, I would say, two types of, or two families of application with the blockchain technology. The one which is related to information systems. I mean, protection of data first, protection of IP, digital right management, collaboration, project management, and reporting, for instance. And the other side is the business models that can be created or developed with blockchain technologies, such new way of financing your projects, new way for distributing content, monetizing content, and so new ways of creating value for creators. So I think these people are going to talk about this. Thank you very much for your attention. And so if you're interested, this report I was talking about is available on Telefilm Canada's and the Canada Media Fund's websites. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you very much, Manuel. So let's start the panel, and I give the microphone to Greg. Thank you, Greg.
Okay, thank you, Elena, and thank you all for being here. It's a really interesting time for blockchain. I come from my roots actually started out in tech. So it was really exciting when Elena reached out to me asking me if I'd be interested in moderating this panel. She was really interested more in the fact that I made a feature film called Crypto, which was the first spy thriller with a blockchain theme behind it, which Lionsgate put out last month on April 12th. So there's been a lot of excitement in regards to that particular film. And in terms of this innovation technology, we're going to learn a lot about what's happening in the space. So I want to start off just by doing a short bio of this extraordinary panel that we have today. The first person is Uppal Mangla, who is has an MBA, an ENG, a PMP. I won't go through all of them, but he's got 6 more other titles. He's been with IBM, if I'm correct, for over 20 plus years. He's a global executive and leads the Watson AI, IoT, and blockchain innovation competency in our global communications, telecom, media, and entertainment industry at IBM. God, your bio just goes on and on. But I'm not going to say more because we're just going to let you talk, and you'll really appreciate his wisdom. Why don't we start off a little bit, just rather than just reading each bios. Uppal, why don't you just explain to me what was it about blockchain that got you excited at IBM?
Sure. I'll keep it simple, and then we can go into the panel discussions. But basically, blockchain is one of the evolving technologies that we at IBM started looking at many years ago. And we said, this is where one of our big bets are going to be, along with artificial intelligence. And within the blockchain, we have categorized it into 3 groups, if you will. One is the blockchain software that anybody can buy. One is blockchain services. And the third one, which is what we'll focus on, is creation of ecosystems and networks, and how media and entertainment are looking at blockchain, and to the comments that were made earlier, how content can be managed, how content can be leveraged, how do we ensure rights and royalty management happens, how do we ensure that everybody gets due rights for their processes. At the same time, how do we ensure that the cost in the digital media buying business is optimized? So those are the things that we are looking at.
The second person I'm going to introduce is Irina Albita. I got that right. Who is the co-founder of FilmChain and Big Coach. What did we say? It was Martin. What's the collection agency?
We're a new collection.
No, but what was the one in the film business called? Not Freeway. Vintage. For anyone who knows about Vintage, anyone in the film business, but basically Vintage is the film collection arm, and essentially that's what FilmChain, which she was explaining, is going to catalyze in the blockchain world. FilmChain is a London-based blockchain company that disrupts the collection, allocation, and analysis of revenues for film, TV, and digital content. The service has been tested end-to-end by clients including Euroimages, Council of Europe, the Film Fund, Hamburg, Bulgarian Film Center, producers, and sales agents. I can only imagine how many sales agents. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Irina, because you just tell me about your company.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Greg. My name is Irina Albita. I'm one of the co-founders at FilmChain. Maria Tinjala, my co-founder, she's here with me. I come from a mathematics and computer science background. Maria comes from a production background. We're London headquartered. We started our company back in 2014. We've been in business for a while now. We're one of the companies, part of Can Next, selected as one of the tech companies, part of this year's cohort of innovation. For us, setting up a new collection service was incredibly important. We want to be able to support the industry with the right tools and support creatives with more data and empower them with the right data to make better decisions for their next project and so on. We feel that it's incredibly important for everyone in the ecosystem, from public funding organizations to creatives, producers, and so on, to have the right accountability and transparency over the money flows. it's their projects, and this is something that we're bringing on the market. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam, how do I pronounce your last name? Klebanov is the CEO of Cinezen Blockchain Entertainment AB. What's that? Did I get that right or no? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sam holds a degree in applied mathematics from Moscow University of Economics and Statistics. He moved to Gothenburg, Sweden in 1991 and worked as a software engineer and CTO for several Swedish companies until 1996 when he started a film distribution company called Maywin Media Cinemen Without Borders, which became a leading force of independent art house film distribution in the territory of former USSR, where it released over 600 films in the course of 20 years. Sam also produced and co-produced 5 motion pictures and hosted a primetime TV show about modern classic cinema. What I'm really interested in, so you have a film world and you have a mathematics world. What was it about blockchain that got you in that world?
As you said, my very deep background is software engineering, but I spent then 20 years of my life distributing and sometimes producing films. So what attracted me to blockchain was actually my frustration with the existing film distribution model. Because there have been a lot of talks about disruption in the blockchain world. But for me, blockchain is needed not so much for the disruption, because people are afraid of disruption. Because it used to be like kind of a very buzzword, like we will disrupt this, we will disrupt that. Then you come to real businesses and they tell you, thank you, but no thank you. We don't want to be disrupted. So blockchain is a great way to complement, to extend. For me, it's an extension of the existing model. This existing model creates huge gaps in film availability. So for me, the most important thing with the blockchain is to give access to the audience, to the films which would be otherwise unavailable, but also to give the possibility to the rights holders to better control of their rights and better curation of their IP.
Toby? No? Mark. I don't have Mark. I'm teasing. You're up first. No. You're here on the panel, Marc Scarpa. Marc Scarpa is a media architect for live, particularly networks. Since the early 1990s, he has provided leadership on notable and award-winning projects, including, Global Citizen 2015 Earth Day, Grammy Live, CINET Television, CINET Television. Yeah, sorry about that. Microsoft Mixer Studios, YouTube Originals Red, Arlington Esports Stadium, or Esports, right? Yeah. Esports Stadium, MySpace TV, Woodstock.com, New York City, and a co-host of other stuff. Wow. He began his storytelling journey with 36 hours online and broadcast participants during the 1996 Tibetan Freedom Festival. Today, live participatory media is currently enjoyed by billions of people worldwide. He is now the co-founder of Decentric Media, whose mission is to broadcast 24/7 live on-demand finance and tech news to accelerate the adoption of 1 billion original crypto wallets by 2022. What was it about blockchain that got you interested?
Thank you. Curiosity. I'm a curious person. I've always been involved in technology, going back to 1979 when I first discovered the internet as a dial-up service, and just that pirate nature of being in an alternative world. And then, of course, you had multiple protocols along the way, the web being the most popular. When we launched CNET Television in 1995, then got acquired by CBS, most people didn't know what the web was, let alone the internet. And we accelerated the adoption of the World Wide Web by telling stories through video. I find that video is a much better storytelling medium than reading. Most folks are not reading elitist publications like the Financial Times or the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times And when they do, it's very difficult for them to understand and really get a handle on what these new technologies are. So through broadcast media, we feel that's the best way to promote adoption and the best way for us to contribute to this explosive financial world that we're seeing now. On a personal level, I also like the anarchist element of it, which is clearly the concept of not having financial monies controlled by a central bank or a central government. And we think we want to continue to promote that through a 24/7 media channel.
That's amazing. Incredible group of people. And last but not least, my dear friend, colleague, associate, attorney, Harris Tulchin, is a veteran entertainment lawyer, producer, producer's rep, author, and professor of motion picture law. He has represented many studios, he's represented major studios, including Sony, Universal, MGM, and UA, United Artists, and has produced over 15 movies, and is the author of the Independent Film Producer Survival Guide, which I highly recommend for any filmmaker that wants to get into the business. He has sold or licensed hundreds of films, represents many sales agents in the marketplace, as well as writers, producers, and directors. One of the films Harris is handling in the market is the film The Comeback, Trail, starring Robert De Niro, Morgan Freeman, Tommy Lee Jones, James Marsden, and Zach Braff. And more importantly, I think Harris has a blockchain technology company that you represent. I'm curious, Harris, what made you decide to get involved in Cinezen?
Well, Sam and I got together in Venice, right? Rome. And, I was wondering about this guy walking around talking about this blockchain stuff. How many years was it? Couple years ago now.
Well, a year and a half.
Yeah.
But it feels like it was 10
Yeah.
years ago.
And we started to talk and really talk about what he was doing in the business and changing how distribution should work, and the fact that, as he was saying, that a lot of great films are simply unavailable throughout the world because the sales agent hasn't been able to sell that territory. And I think Sam is going to talk a little bit more about how he created a platform using blockchain, using cryptocurrency, that allows films that are simply unavailable in many, many territories around the world to become available through the use of Cinezen's platform. And I got really excited about that, and being a lawyer, wanting to be on the cutting edge, I said, I'm in. And we started work together. So
That's interesting. They're still coming through the door. That's a good sign. When you think of blockchain, for me, I always think of like Uber, right? There was sort of a control system that, if you wanted to get into a cab, you had to go in a taxi. Now, you basically go on your device, you put your location, you hit Uber, and you can go anywhere in the world. I'm curious, in terms of the panel, do you see blockchain in that same way, in terms of as a disruption in terms of the economic system?
Well, as I said, I see it more as an extension of the existing system, because we have thousands of people running around this film market, sales agents, distributors, and there is a certain ecosystem how the films are released. Producers give the rights to sales agents, they sell to local territories, they go to the local platforms. And it's fine, it works for some films, but not for all. And of course, if you want to release a film theatrically, or if you want to pre-sell it, you need a distributor, you need an MG. But then you end up with a lot of films unsold for many territories. You don't have access to the audience, and we can see that actually the market is shrinking. Distributors have less money, they buy fewer films, and it leaves even more content unavailable. Many people don't renew their rights when they run out. So the idea was, what if we could make any film available to any consumer, any viewer, anywhere in the world? And this consumer can pay directly to whoever owns the right. If it's a local distributor, the money goes automatically to the local distributor. If it's a sales agent, it goes to the sales agent. If it's a producer, the user pays to the producer. It doesn't matter for the user to whom. What's important, that the user knows, okay, I'm buying from the legitimate rights holder. And also, there is a huge deficit of trust and transparency in the film industry.
Yeah, and so the question then is, you know, is in terms of that disruption, is blockchain basically going to displace the distribution model that's in place today?
Not necessarily displace, because as I said, if you want to release a film theatrically, you need local distributor. Then maybe at some point, even film tickets would be sold as tokenized and sold on blockchain. This would be great, because it would create, again, transparency in all the kind of chain of value. But it would, I believe you would always need distributors, but distributors will not remain your only way to reach the audience.
To reach the marketplace.
To reach the marketplace, yes.
So let's talk a little,
I'd like to add on top of Sam, and you know, we're big fans of Sam's platform. The one thing that is really important for us, and going back to the roots, blockchain is, in simple terms, a very simple way of storing records. It's a piece of code, and the reason why it's decentralized is because it's not just maintained by only one individual, one accountant, let's say, but by a large set of individuals. And what the blockchain creates for any entity, any film production, any larger enterprise, it creates a single source of truth. And this is something that it's incredibly important, because when you have a single source of truth of all the revenues that your content generated, anyone in the production that has visibility over those revenues can have a look, and everyone shares the same information. This creates interoperability between different departments, the sales, the marketing, the investors, and it makes information much more easily transferable.
So going back to your question about Uber and how it relates to the blockchain. So Uber runs on a centralized server architecture. Uber could be shut down tomorrow, just like Facebook has been turned off, and Instagram and all these other platforms. What Uber did was accelerate the concept of the sharing economy. This is an idea, an ideology. It's not a protocol. Blockchain is a protocol ultimately, like the World Wide Web, but technically not a protocol. But let's just call it that for the sake of discussion. What it can do, though, in the context of Uber, is you have millions and millions of drivers and hundreds of millions of users. So if you were to tokenize the Uber crowd sharing experience, you can literally look at earning tokens every time you go into an Uber. And think of it as a reward system, points and credits. They're starting to do this now. They're giving you cash and so on, but it's not a tokenized system. If it were a tokenized system, again, going back to your question, you could actually take those tokens that you've earned and trade them, in essence, sell them on an exchange, just like you could sell stock on NASDAQ. So let's say I earn 100,000 Uber tokens because I'm an Uber power user, which I happen to be over the course of the 10 years it's been in business. Those tokens might be selling for maybe a fraction of a penny on Coinbase or on Binance, for example. Now I can actually get cash back, or I can use it to buy some other tokens, or I could use it to buy other products and services from other third-party corporations. So Uber is a great example of a company that could go in a blockchain direction, meaning become a decentralized architecture so that their company would not, in fact, be taken down at any given moment, which could happen through hackers. It could become tokenized, which would then give more value to the drivers and to the consumers that use the product as well. So that's something I'm sure they'll look at some point, but they didn't at this point because they just did a pretty wonderful IPO. It will take them some time to get there. Whereas you look at a company like Facebook, for example, which has a pretty significant blockchain initiative, and they're about to actually tokenize Facebook. So that's a situation where you have everyone in this room probably has a Facebook account. Imagine every single like, every post, every time you look at something, every ad you click on, you're in essence making, earning Facebook tokens that can then be redeemed for other things, depending upon how Facebook decides to write those smart contracts.
And just to add on that, then essentially the jukebox, like the old jukebox, could become the new digital library where people could, through their tokens, buy the content that they want, which would then decentralize the distribution model. If I'm following your logic.
Yeah, I think that's another analogy. Sure, I'm a little different, but when you're talking about the music industry, you could look at Spotify, for an example, becoming a tokenized platform running on a blockchain.
Well, I mean, what we do at Cinezen is presently is we license rights, and there's a.
So is there like a blockchain right, or what does that look like when
We
you
call
say?
it a blockchain VOD right.
So you created a new
right.
terminology
Exactly.
in your architecture.
We
Interesting.
designed a license agreement just for this, and so we license the rights mostly from sales agents and distributors, and sometimes producers. But the cool thing about our license agreement is the owner of the rights can decide what the term is. They can decide what price point they want to charge. They can block any territory that's already sold. They can take the rights down at any time.
But you can do that also on Vimeo today. In a VOD architecture, what you just described, you can do the same thing, which is great.
Well,
Which is basically giving the freedom back to the artist in terms of the buying power.
Yeah, but just to add on to that, just the differentiator with blockchain to the stuff that Harris just mentioned is you are creating provenance and immutability, which without getting too technical means nobody can mess up with that. It's stored, it's permanent, it's auditable. And in fact, from a rights and royalty standpoint, that's one of the use cases we are looking at very seriously, because once a music player or a recording artist or even someone who's creating a story puts that on the blockchain system, he or she will have the full authority on that from a patent standpoint, from a copyright standpoint, from an IP standpoint. Because blockchain will make it immutable. You cannot dispute it.
There are also some companies developing, because we talked about blockchain for information side and also blockchain for the business side. So there are companies developing systems of tracking the rights on blockchain, like the rights ledger. So basically, the problem is when we work with the rights holders, we have to trust at this time that they have the rights. We can ask them for the chain of titles, but then somebody else comes to us, how do you have this film? This is my film. And this is the problem every platform is facing, because we have to work with the traditional chain of titles and proofs of ownership and documents. But if every transaction of the film rights is stored on the blockchain, then it would create exactly immutable and incorruptible system of information, so we know exactly what's going on with the rights.
You would essentially, it's like Napster, you would be empowering the artist, which is essentially what everyone wants. You have the ability now to, in a way, it seems logical that part of that distribution model will be displaced. The middleman will be cut out, essentially, in that new paradigm shift. But I don't want to get too. That's just my opinion.
I just don't want every distributor here to get scared.
No, but it's okay though, because as a filmmaker and as an artist, the whole point of creating content is for everyone to see it. And so, you're essentially what blockchain is doing, it's leveling the playing field. So it's no longer at the choice of Netflix or Apple or wherever that VOD platform is going to be. Now, that particular consumer or that artist has the opportunity to now reach a larger audience through that technology.
Yeah, it was good that you actually mentioned Apple and their power, because Apple is a dominant iTunes TVOD platform, And as a distributor, I worked a lot with them. And actually, this project, Cinezen, was born out of my frustration with Apple, because they have enormous power over visibility of films. Lots of people give them films, and then Apple decide what would be the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, no, they curate,
Exactly.
decide, and
Exactly.
level
And they decide what would they sell and what would they throw to the mass grave of films, which is their back catalog, where nobody can find anything. So what blockchain is great for? Blockchain is great for sharing revenues, because you can split revenues using smart contract in many different ways. So what we can do, we can incentivize curation and influencers. So we can create decentralized front end where different people can have their own kind of sub platforms. So we call it stores, and they can curate their content themselves, and the artists can curate their content.
I think that's where the disruption is. Anyway, you wanna say something?
Yes, actually around, as Sam mentioned, around revenue distribution. In collection services, when we support film productions to collect revenues globally, and then allocate those revenues immediately in real time and with real-time reports to all the beneficiaries including public funding organization. For example, we have one of our clients is backed by Hamburg Film Fund, by Eurimage. All these become beneficiaries at the end of the day, and every time $10,000, $1,000 flows through the system, that money is being split automatically with every beneficiary, and every beneficiary has the ability to withdraw those funds in real time. And one of the things, because some of the panelists talked about tokenization, cryptocurrencies, I think it's very important to say that not every blockchain product needs to be based on cryptocurrencies. We operate fully in euros, dollars, and pounds. We have banking partners that support us. Although the underlying infrastructure is blockchain, we collect in dollars and euros, and we allocate payments at the end of the day in dollars and euros.
What about PayPal? Okay, that's what I'm asking. All right, I'm going to open it up to the crowd. I'm sure the audience must have some questions. No questions? There we go.
Excuse me. I was wondering if you'd be able to speak, if any of you would be able to speak on the subject of smart contracts, because I know that there is a growing digitalization trend of the legal aspect through blockchain, through smart contracts, firstly. And secondly, if, what's the state of ICOs for financing in Hollywood? What is it in the film industry, and are ICOs a thing? So.
Wonderful. So essentially, when it comes to smart contracts, and I really recommend this, Manuel Badel wrote a wonderful report that's very equilibrated and explains very well smart contracts in the media industry. What are smart contracts? Essentially, they're a piece of code a software that every time that codify payment instructions in a recoupment schedule. So every time you have money coming in, the smart contract would be able to automatically split that revenue with anyone involved. I think it's definitely smart contracts are part of the Ethereum blockchain, and they've been developed. There's several other blockchains that are working on developing similar solutions. But when it comes to ICOs, I think we've seen definitely a slowdown in the it's called the crypto winter. That if anything did a very good thing, which is taking out of the market a lot of projects that were not legitimate. So I think right now we're at the stage 2.0 of blockchain, when there's a lot more legitimate organizations that actually have active projects.
Just to add to that, ICOs were very unregulated. Utility tokens, in order to have a utility token, you needed to have utility. We could have a whole conversation about that, but what Irina's absolutely right. There's been a lot of shakeout in the market. ICOs, you'll still see them happening, but they'll be less and less. What's more popular now is more security tokens and even more popular moving forward, you're going to see what's called IEOs, initial exchange offerings. So again, you have an exchange. Security token could be a security. Just to look at that, it could be against a piece of land, real estate, oil reserves, agriculture, your media assets. If you have a massive library of audio or video or whatever it might be, it could be equity. So that's an example of tokenizing a security. There's no utility to that token. It's a fundraising vehicle. IEOs, you're doing that with an exchange. So let's say a Coinbase or a Binance or a Kraken. The reason why IEOs will become popular is it cuts down your legal costs tremendously. There's a thing called KYC, know your customer. In order to actually take that money, you have to have proper KYC, especially in the States and a lot of other jurisdictions worldwide. Also, they have a built-in group of, all that KYC has already been done in advance. If you have your own exchange account, your driver's license bins upload. You're, in essence, an accredited investor at that point. And they have a user base of millions and millions or tens of millions of people. So you're doing a listing. You're listed on that exchange, so it's immediately tradable. And they'll just take a percentage of the funds that are raised. And that's a great direction to go, and you'll see a lot more of that as time moves on.
Okay, we have time for one more question. The gentleman right there.
Hi. If I'm a large broadcaster and I deliver content online, and my content is actually sitting on an online video platform like Brightcove or Kaltura or one of the really big players that control the online video platform world, how do I change my workflow? I'm not going to. There's no chance that I'm going to change my workflow in the next year or two. That's a very unlikely event.
Yeah.
Therefore, I just don't understand how any of this is going to scale.
Yeah,
I don't see a single broadcaster out there of size that is going to move off of its current workflow. That's question number one.
I think let's address that one because I think we all have an answer to that one. I'm going to take a crack at this because I've been doing online streaming since 1996. All of those companies that you've mentioned, I know the board members, the investors, the CEOs.
So do I.
Okay. So you made a mistake.
I'm a
Wait, hang on.
I'm a co-chair of a company that
the
talks to them about
the
these
mistake that you
issues.
made was putting all of your assets on one of those software as a service platforms. What you need to have is your library stored somewhere in perfect quality digital video. So it's a separate storage system altogether that's a cold storage, if you will. It could be on tape, it could be wherever it is. And that's where your hard assets live. And that allows you to then move from any CMS to any CMS. There's so many people like you that they started out on Brightcove, right? And now they're trying to move over to, say, Kaltura or IBM or whomever. And they never, ever had their main hard asset archived. That's the biggest mistake you can make. You have to have that first. Then you can transfer it to any platform at any time, anywhere, in perpetuity. Like a 70 millimeter negative, print, right? Or 70 millimeter negative, right? You can turn that into any digital asset you want until the end of time. Same thing with your final output of your film, whatever it might be, or your video that you shoot. I highly recommend everyone do that. There's plenty of other online storage systems or cold storage systems that you want to explore for your digital assets. It's a DAM. It's a digital asset management system. It's not a content delivery system or a content management system for the end consumer. And I can certainly answer the extra part of that, but I know that my colleagues want to hit that in terms of the monetization on the library side. So,
I would just add to that, though, a lot of these broadcasters, and I'm not a broadcaster, by the way, a lot of these broadcasters don't find that solution available because of the other IP that they currently have involved in these systems. They've got lots of IP locked up into it, and it's very difficult for them to make any changes. Well, that said, that's one. No, it's not just a legal question. It's a question of actual working IP on those platforms. Okay, the other thing that I'd like to just talk about for a second is we've all watched PewDiePie move from YouTube, where he's got 95 million fans, to DLive, which is a small P2P video sharing platform. And everyone was very, very excited about that. They thought that was the beginning of a very big move. And what happened? Lo and behold, a total of 0.25% have moved from YouTube to DLive. How does that scale?
That's all right.
That's it. That just answering that question again. Go if you want to answer.
For us, well, we haven't started working with broadcasters yet, but we've been working with lots of distributors and sales agents. So first of all, we try to make the workflow really, really simple and easy. For example, as a distributor, I have a big library of films. So when I talk to the sales agents, I say, okay, I already have these assets on our platform. So all you need to do is just to open unsold territories. Then I get another big library from another distributor. So we're building up our libraries with the partners who are easy to adapt to it. And then we add the others because we make it very simple for them. And then, of course, there is always a challenge to attract the audience to a new platform. But because we, as I said, we use blockchain to incentivize influencers and artists and curators, so we very much count on them bringing their own audience via their kind of own channels.
I mean, ultimately, the consumer will be the driving force behind, this emergence of blockchain. As it becomes easier to buy your content with a coin, that will force the legacy environments like a broadcaster to move into that world. No, I understand that. I'm not here to debate that, but I am here to say that it's coming.
Well, to answer your question very simply about PewDiePie, and I think it's a great example, by the way, and I think everyone should learn from this question. It's a very astute question. And the answer is actually quite simple. Talent in the digital world may not necessarily transfer from one platform to another. You have a lot of creators on the YouTube platform that try to go over to Instagram, or there was Vine for a little while, or Musical.ly, or even to television. And their audience just doesn't migrate with them. So I've always said you have to respect the platform that you're on. If you're on YouTube, it's a certain type of programming format that works for that particular platform. Just like if you're on Instagram, it's a certain type of programming that works for that platform. You're going to have a wide range of different types of things, but the format is quite specific, and the delivery mechanism is specific, and the way that you'll interact and participate with that audience is quite specific. So not all talent is going to transfer over from one to the next to the next. And I think PewDiePie is a great example of that. Here he is. He was one of the earliest guys on YouTube. He's huge on YouTube, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to translate over into an IPFS or DLive streaming environment, which ultimately doesn't have that many users to begin with anyway. And so he's trying to get this new decentralized app going, if you will, for a variety of different reasons. So that's all I can say on that.
The only other comment I would make is a lot of these broadcasters and distributors, to your comment, in their innovation labs are very worried right now and looking at blockchain in terms of how they can ensure that they can continue to have the power or authority by moving into blockchain, rather than getting, cannibalized from a revenue standpoint. So it may not be visible, but behind the scenes, all of them are looking at this technology and seeing how they can migrate or move or basically leverage the technology, because if they don't do it, they will basically get disrupted.
So I would like to comment on that. At FilmChain, we've actually been in conversations and in advanced conversations, and we're building proof of concepts for one of the largest broadcaster and media conglomerate in Europe, also with broadcasters in North America. They are actively looking at embracing technology because, as I mentioned, it brings interoperability between their teams. It brings this source of truth for all the data. Currently, some of even the largest organizations operate on a multitude of different software systems, Excel spreadsheets. Unifying all those systems needs to happen, and there's no other way than actually having just one source of truth for all the data.
Well, I think what's great about blockchain is that it's a never-ending story, and there are going to be a lot more questions, and unfortunately, our time is up. So I just want to thank our esteemed panel for an extraordinary conversation, and we're done. Thank you. That was awesome.
Thank you very much.